The Yankees' deceit about the nature of cycles. The nature of cycles goes beyond normal seasonal variations when one observes growth and economic recession, and what is at stake here is the discussion about this fundamentally distorted Yankees' view of how any system's growth, peak, and death on the planet we live. The Yankees' vision of the nature of cycles. The Yankees' view of economic and social systems that grow up, and are only held by eventual catastrophic actions, is the fundamental mistake they make. Thus, according to this Yankees' view, civilizations collapse because a disaster affected them, such as, for a tsunami, a volcanic eruption, a barbarian invasion, an earthquake, or even by a severe climatic change. So, they believe in an expansive, constant, and perpetuate development of any system, and that only a catastrophe or a lack of resources can interrupt this continuous growing. Nothing else could be more wrong. The approach to natural exhaustion of cycles. In opposition to this Yankees' catastrophistic approach, there is the view of the exhaustion produced by multiple interactions inside any system, which are extinguished amid their natural processes of growth, peak, and death, as it is the normal course of development for human beings. Socioeconomic, civilizing, or even geological systems do not end because of lack of resources, but because of the natural exhaustion of their growing processes. This means that, the faster they grow, the faster they run out, despite the fact that there are abundant resources. This is exactly in opposition on the Yankees' vision that perceives rapid and continuous growth as virtuous. Since the end of the American Civil War, passing through the First and Second World War, then the escalation on oil prices, and even more, the absurdity of the exaggerated growth of communist China, the economic system proposed by the Yankees came to be seen as virtuous and of immense merits by everybody, hiding, however, its fundamentally flawed and misleading nature that led us to this present crisis of exhaustion in the multiple interactions in the current economic processes all over the world. Nothing can grow indefinitely or to be stopped only by a catastrophe or lack of resources, but rather, a growth which goes beyond any restraint, hastens its end abruptly by natural exhaustion. Just like an athlete who dies from sudden death. What the Yankees see as virtuous is fundamentally distorted, and produces an unthinkably high-stakes escalation to reach this incomprehensible value of $4 quadrillion from Wall Street derivatives and stock markets. It can be clearly seen here that these values cannot represent by any means any serious accumulation of wealth, but rather a worrying sign of exhaustion of the economic processes that it derived. On top of that, an immense process of forced industrialization applied to communist China drains all the industrial resources of the planet, impoverishing everyone with unemployment, except for communist China. In 2008, the hike on oil prices reached the formidable quotation of $138 from the $5 a barrel in 1971, decaying from there on, showing the strong impact of the economic leadership role that this commodity plays, interfering in almost all processes of the global industrial development, turning to be the epicenter of the activities that drive the present globalized world, through multiple interactions of its petrochemical components applied to footwear, coatings in general or automobile components, in short, almost all consumer products manufactured today. Remembering that dinosaurs were not extinguished by any meteoric collision, but rather by the natural exhaustion and their cycle of growth, peak, decay, and death. Similarly, the United States of America is at serious risk of exhausting the multiple interactions of its current economic processes, long before they have exhausted their military arsenals or even seen their natural resources extinguished, or to observe any relevant climatic change. The processes of thermodynamic exchanges at this stage on Earth's evolution have long since not allowed sudden changes of anything, but rather, a slow exhaustion on its processes of natural growth, peak, and death of any system, including the planet itself that has been slowly stabilizing its geological and biological processes throughout natural extinction of species and the very slow geological movements of its tectonic plates.
By Professor Ricardo Gomes Rodrigues. São Carlos, SP, Brasil.
February 5, 2021.